Welcome to the Healing Place podcast, a space filled with inspirational stories of hope, along with practical advice for your healing journey. Your host is Teri Wellbrock, trauma warrior, writer, speaker, blogger, therapy dog handler, and founder of the Sammy's Bundles of Hope project. As a survivor and a thriver, Teri's mission is to shine the light of hope into the world by interviewing insightful guests from across the globe. The Healing Place podcast is a fiscally sponsored project of Fractured Atlas.
Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and excited to have with me today Nancy McKay. And Nancy is certified Life and Equus Coach, author, and speaker. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Teri. It's great to be here.
Yes, I told you right before I hit record, I had to look up how to pronounce Equus. I had no idea. What is that?
Equus is horses.
Oh.
And so it's it's just part of the terminology. And as an Equus coach, I don't coach horses, but I use horses as co-facilitators for life coaching. So.
Wonderful. Well, you probably saw my Labradoodle behind me moving around just a second ago, and she's a registered or a certified registered therapy dog
Awesome.
Through Pet Partners, and we work with kids in schools. And so it's amazing how animals can have an impact on helping people heal and process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
It's magic.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and I've heard horses are just amazing at doing that for people as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Very intuitive.
All right. So let people know who you are and what you do.
Okay. I'm at Life and Equus Coach. I'm certified in both. And I came to this just kind of, it was just sort of by chance, I guess you could say. I was diagnosed at 58 with ovarian cancer. And after I got through treatment and all of that, my perspective on life just started to change. And it was kind of like I got hit upside the head with the mortality 2x4. And even though I wasn't diagnosed terminal by any stretch, I had ovarian cancer. It was early stage. And so, but it was enough of a shock that I really started to grasp that I wasn't happy in the work that I was doing. And so I set out to learn something new when most people are thinking about retiring. And so at 60, I started training to become a life coach. And here I am 4 years later doing it full time and, just kind of pinching myself that I get to do the kind of work that really feeds my soul and helps people, which is why it feeds my soul.
Right. So I totally relate because I'm 55 and I'm doing my soul work. And I say it often on the show. I love, I don't know, it doesn't feel like work because I'm so passionate about it and I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely makes a difference. I can work so many more hours at this than I would have wanted to at my other job, just because I get so involved in it and it's work that I love to do. So it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't feel like work.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of the topics we talked about beforehand was change your thoughts, change your life. So that's really the kind of work that you help people with is doing exactly that.
Right. Mindset. Because that's where everything, I think, my belief is that everything starts there with your thoughts. And so, it's not our circumstances that create our experience in our life. It's our thoughts about our circumstances that create the experience. So if you can change how you think about something, then that thought will generate a different feeling or emotion. And then you'll take a different action because of how you feel. And then that will give you a different result. And so, if you feel like your life is going down the drain, it's because you think your life is going down the drain.
Right.
Because the circumstance is completely neutral. It's, it's a circumstance. It's not, we give it the power or the emotion or whatever. So I think it's absolutely fascinating, and it's so interesting because you can, what we do is we can learn to catch our thoughts and shift them. It's not like you can go from being really angry to being happy, just by flipping the coin, right?
Right.
But you level up. So, if you're angry, then maybe you can go from anger to perplexed or something, you just level up a little bit. And so then, and it takes the power out of it.
Yeah.
So then you can look at it, and when you level up the thought, then that also levels up the emotion that is created by it. And so, it lessens the anger, it brings the level up there. And then you don't, if you're angry at your husband because he said something, and maybe, my coach used to say, your husband said words.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it is. Your husband said words. You're reacting to what you are making those words mean.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
What are you making those words mean?
Yeah.
And so then that creates a thought, well, I think it means this, and I'll be darned if I'm going to let him get away with that, right? So that just really stokes up the fire in the belly, right? And creates a big emotion. And then if you just think, well, he said words, what am I making that mean? Well, I'm making it mean something entirely different than he says he meant to say, or how he meant to say it. It makes a huge difference in how we conduct ourselves, because then, if we're all fired up, then we're going to slam doors and break plates and God knows what. And maybe it just doesn't need to happen. That doesn't need to happen. So
yeah,
that's kind of a long explanation.
That's a very powerful way of looking at it. It's just to almost pause and say, just some words.
Yep.
Yes.
And the phrase, what are you making this mean, is huge. And it really does take all the fire out of it, because it's like, oh, it puts the ball back in your court.
Right.
Like, I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm doing that. Nobody else is doing it. It's all happening in my head, right? So if it's happening in my head, then I'm in control of that.
Right.
And I can change that.
Yes.
And if I can change how I think about that, then I can also change how I feel about it.
Right. Oh, for sure. I was talking to one of my sons recently, and we were talking about, I don't know, angry people. During the pandemic, it just seems people's fuses are shorter, right? And so I don't know, somebody was screaming and yelling in a car, flipping him off, I don't know, doing something. And I said something along the lines of, we're all on our own journeys. They're just not as far along on their journey as you are. And so it was like one of those aha moments of, oh yeah, like if you stop to pause and think about they're what they're doing, how they're behaving, they're yelling and screaming and flipping off and whatever it is they're doing, really, that's their journey. That's
Right.
their words. They're just saying words. And so
Exactly.
if you can just say, it really doesn't have an impact on me. Wow, it does change everything, because then you're right. You're not, reacting and getting angry and cussing back and flipping back off, and,
Right.
you keep on driving and go on with your day.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you can even exercise some compassion for the other guy,
Yeah.
because who knows, maybe he's rushing to get to the hospital because his mom or his wife or somebody's just been admitted after an accident, or, who knows, but it's like, we don't know what the other person is going through. We just know what they've thrown out into the universe.
Yeah.
Right. The energy that they're throwing out there. And we can either choose to react or not. And it's going to make us feel worse if we react negatively. They don't care.
Right.
How we feel or how we react, right? They're just in their own world, and they probably have no idea what that their action did to fire us up.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's and I've been I've been on the receiving end of some of that, and I've done my fair share of it as well. I mean, traffic is one of my triggers, is bad. And that's the way it is, and I'm learning. We all are. And, it's like, take a breath, take a beat. You don't have to react to everything that happens.
Yes, absolutely. Easier said than done, but a good practice, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll sit behind someone, a red light, turns green, and then their head's down, they're texting, and I still want to lay on the horn. But I have done exactly what you said, and saying to myself, maybe they're getting a text that their mother's in the hospital. Maybe they've been, doing pulled a double shift at the hospital working, and they're super tired, and they just closed their eyes for a second. Yeah. Again, I just try to take that pause. Right. Yeah. Very true. Yep. And it is amazing because it really does create more of a joyous, peaceful life.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something for all of us to remember is, if you want to have a happy existence, you're going, it's in your best interest to not react to everything that happens in the world. You don't have to, come at every situation loaded for bear, you just
right.
It makes life a whole lot more pleasant for everybody involved if you can have some compassion for everyone else and yourself.
Yeah,
too.
For sure.
Self-compassion is very important.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, it's Teri Wellbrock here, just taking a moment to send up a big thank you to Dr. Bree Gentili for her recurring donation as a sponsor of the Healing Place podcast. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show as well, you can visit my website at teriwellbrock.com. It's TeriWellbrock.com. All right, and look for the Donate Now at Fractured Atlas tab. Thanks so much. Well, and that steers us to one of the other topics we wanted, to touch upon today, which was alcoholism and addiction. And so I know with my journey with my mom, and finally being able to take a step back from it, because I was so caught up in the trauma of it. I was so caught up in its impact on me. and throughout my childhood, well, throughout my whole life, and having to go in and clean up the mess, or, that codependent relationship. When I was finally able to take a step back from that and not be in that codependency part of it anymore, I was able to have compassion. And then by me being able to have compassion, she started to be able to shift, and she started to do some healing work. And so, yeah, so can you touch upon that addiction, that disease a little bit for us?
Oh, sure. Well, I grew up in an alcoholic household as well. And, my father was an alcoholic. My mom was a heavy drinker. And, they were high functioning. For the most part, it was a normal childhood, except that I learned, like you did, I'm sure, to walk on eggshells. You do everything you possibly can not to upset the apple cart. And, I was talking with someone else about it's like being in a war zone. Even though there may not be a lot of fighting going on, it feels like a minefield.
Yeah.
And you're always in a state, your body is always in a state of high alert. Yeah. and anxiety sort of thing. So you're always in a stress response.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for our bodies to relax when we're always on alert, right?
Yeah, I call it, I lived in a constant state of hyperarousal. I was just constantly in that state of, when here it comes, any second now. Right.
Yep.
Yep.
When is the other shoe going to drop, right?
Right.
So, so that was the basis of a lot of my, I learned how to be a people pleaser, turn the other cheek, whatever, it was just a way to survive. Right. And then I started drinking in high school with all my buddies, and because everybody did, it was just, that's what you did. And, in my 20s, I didn't, I partied a little bit, but not, it wasn't out of hand or anything. By my 30s, things ramped up a bit. 40s, we were the life, I had met my husband, we were the life of the party sort of thing. And my father killed himself the year I turned 50.
Oh.
And that, I felt so guilty about that, because I felt like I should have been there. And that guilt kicked my drinking into alcoholic drinking. So, I was drinking heavily anyway, and I had thought about quitting and just couldn't couldn't muster up the courage to do it. And so then, my drinking really kicked into high gear, and it took me a couple years, and I was suicidal myself. And so that's what sent me on my recovery path, was a failed suicide attempt. And so that scared me sober, basically. And I haven't had a drink since, and that was a little over 12 years ago.
Wow. Well, there was a lot there. One, I'm so sorry about your father, and thank you for sharing that with us. But two, congratulations. And I mean, just kudos to you, because again, watching my mom through her journey, I know what a process that is. And not, I mean, it really, I know for her, it's a daily.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want to say battle, but it's a daily experience for her. There's days, that she won't talk about it, but she's 85 years old and celebrating a year and a half sober. Yay, Mom. And actually more than that, in July, it'll be 2 years. And so to me, I'm just so over the top proud of her. But there are days that she'll say to me when I talk to her on the phone, because we now live 5 states away from each other, and she'll say, I thought about it today. Now she attributes it to God, and, she told Jesus he needed to be healed. And so she believes that it happened. And so she'll say, I just look at his picture on the wall and I tell him I'm having one of those days and that he needs to get me through it. And he does. And so, I mean, that's how she every day gets through it.
Well, and I think that that's how really anybody is able to stay sober. It may not be Jesus, but it might be, the universe or a higher power of some sort. I don't really give a rip what you call it.
Right.
I used to call God Murphy when I first got sober, because I was so angry at God for a variety of reasons, but I just kind of choked on the word.
Yeah.
And once again, it's a word. It was my thoughts about that word that conjured up this, at any rate. So I called God Murphy for a long time.
I love that. I mean, but that's a very powerful and poignant point about, of you're taking that word that was, I mean, at the time when you were still trying to do the healing work. And
right.
So it was a trigger word.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and then because I knew how important that was, that leaning on a higher power, which I had, I mean, I had the concept that there was something out there bigger and, whatnot, right? And all I have to do is look at the inside of a flower, and that there's something greater than you out there, right? I mean, something created the intricacies of the inside of that flower. That's what that brings to me. It's like, oh yeah, there's something bigger than me. So once you really land on that, then you can ask that power for help.
Yeah.
And if you're sincere in that request, it will be granted to you. And I know this firsthand because it's happened to me many times. And that's what gets me through everything, is that faith in something bigger.
Yeah.
And if I just have the wits about me to surrender whatever I'm struggling with to that, my divine goddess, or
Murphy.
Murphy, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Right. If I surrender that, then you can almost feel it leaving your body. I mean, it's just like, oh, well, if I would have known that was going to happen, I would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it truly is. I mean, I've lived it myself, and it really is that feeling of almost like when I've just reached overwhelm and I can't carry this any longer, I'm handing it off to you.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing because it really does. It just, you can feel the weight, you can feel it goes, leaves.
And the thing that confounds me still to this day is that I will hang on to something because I think I can fix it. Damn it.
You're right.
And and then it's like, oh yeah. If I just hand it over, then I don't have to feel this way. And, it'll get taken care of.
Right. Exactly. I love it. All right. Well, thank you. So is there anything else that you wanted to touch upon today that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about yet?
Well, I think we have to talk about horses just a little bit more.
Okay.
Just because they're magic, and they have given me so much in just the short period of time that I've worked with them and been exposed to them. You know, I am not a horse person. I don't have my own horses. I didn't grow up with horses, but I experienced an Equus coaching session, or an equine assisted coaching session several years ago. And it was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. That horse just looked into my eyes and right down into my soul. And she got me. You know, she knew all about me and really liked me anyway. And so I was very smitten. And then I went to a women's equine retreat in Tucson about a year or so later. And the following weekend did a workshop with my Equus coaches, and it was phenomenal. And I thought, I have got to learn how to do this so that I can not, selfishly for myself, so I can work with horses a lot, but also witness the transformation in my clients that I had myself, and it is just the most amazing experience. And it's hard to describe. You can't really describe it because I think it's different for everybody, but everybody has an aha, like, and it's not just an aha, it's like an, oh my God, right. I can't believe this. This is amazing, right? Yeah. Because of the stuff that they are, you get in the presence of a horse and you just start spilling your guts, kind of, it's just like they make you feel safe. I make my clients feel safe. They just are able to open up and let their true self come out.
Yeah.
And as a result, they have this transformation that is amazing. And I've never not had somebody experience that. It's magic. It's just magic.
That's beautiful. I know for me, myself, horses always terrified me because they had giant heads. And so I just remember being scared of them, but they're so beautiful. And I've since come to, like, I can pet them and touch them and talk to them. And it really is. When I went to Colorado to visit my son, we went horseback riding, and I just was mesmerized looking into, I took some photography, and how interesting that I took our Nikon and really zoomed in on their eyes. I was mesmerized by their eyes. So I must have been connecting. I can still, as I'm talking about it, I still see that same tan horse with its and I was just, we just stared at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, next time you come to Colorado to visit your son, be sure to book a session with me. I would love it.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how do people find you? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, my website is amazingoutlookcoaching.com, and they can drop me an email at nancy@amazingcoaching.com. And I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all the fun stuff. And then I've got a chapter from my book. I didn't write the book. I contributed a chapter called The Intersection of Desperation and Grace, and it's in Ready to Fly Volume 3. And I will I'll drop in the chat the link, and you can include that in the show notes.
Wonderful.
But it's amazingoutlookcoaching.com/gift-chapter, I believe. So
wonderful. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for joining me here today and sharing your insights and
Well, thank you.
Yeah, the healing work you're doing for others in the world.
Thank you so much. It, like I say, I pinch myself that I get to do this every day, and it's just, so much different.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today to the Healing Place podcast with your host and trauma warrior, Teri Wellbrock. If you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about Teri, her mission, and the Hope for Healing journey, visit Teri's website at www.teriwellbrock.com. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and offering your reviews on our YouTube channel, audio outlets, and Facebook page. And as Teri reminds us, until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself.